Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, there is a spectrum of human behavior in various cultures, various traditions. You know, remember from the book and subsequent movies of Gulliver Travels, there was these groups of people. You know, it was they weren't supposed to be, this wasn't supposed to be a kid's book, right? It was biting, satirical um, content about politics and culture and things like this, elitism, and just human beings sucking, right? Like it's almost like an angry book. But there's these, I think they're giants. Gulliver comes upon these two groups of people that have been warring for years. One is the big enders, the other ones are the little enders. One cracks the egg, soft-boiled egg, at the big end. The other group of people eat the egg from the small end, right? So there's the small enders and the big enders, and they've been warring over this for like hundreds of years or something. There was also in real life even more. There's two tribes. Just asked Gemini, just in case it had been some fake thing that had gone wrong on the internet. There's two tribes in New Guinea, and one tribe believes that young men get their semen from having anal sex with an elder. One of the elder men in the tribe performs anal sex, so the younger man who's at puberty will end up being able to reproduce. The other tribe, they believe that, they think that's horseshit. They believe that the young man gets semen from having oral sex with an elder man. Like, it's a real thing. I asked Gemini. That is correct. This is the question. Several tribes of Papua New Guinea, including the Sambio and the Itoro, believe that semen promotes sexual maturation among the younger men of their tribe. That is correct. Anthropological research, I'm not getting that word, but that's okay, has extensively documented the existence of male initiation rites among several tribes in Papua New Guinea, including the Sambia and the Itoro or El Dolo. The core of these practices was the belief that young men are born lacking essential masculine substance needed to proper growth, strength, and achieve adult male status. This vital substance was believed to be concentrated in semen. Key details about the historical practice include semen ingestion. Young prepubescent boys will be separated from their mothers and undergo rituals that include the ritualization ingestion of semen from older initiated bachelors. This was believed to be the only way for the boys to grow into strong, mature men. Stage develop. The homosexual activity was not seen as a lifestyle choice, but as a mandatory, temporary stage of male development, as did boys' bands through initiation stages. He would eventually transition from a semen recipient to a donor for younger initiates. The Atoro, for example, that cultural belief that they were heterosexual sex could be depleted or dangerous to a man's life force, and thus it was reserved primarily for reproduction. And so the fun stuff they did was that. So anyways, there's that, right? Like, that exists. Like, there's weird shit that people do all over the world. Weird rituals, weird cultural things. You know, sometimes it's in families. Sometimes it's in, you have these people in West Virginia and I think Kentucky who believe that by carrying poisonous snakes, dancing around with poisonous snakes, it somehow brings you closer to Jesus. And there's some liberal reporter who went up to the West Virginia mountains, and somebody who's far more educated, like a real journalist, like one of those, PBS fucking highly educated, pompous reporters. And he starts studying these people, and he gets sucked into it. He's dancing around with fucking copperheads and rattlesnakes. There's like a documentary about it, right? People do weird, crazy shit. Weird ritualistic shit that, anybody else watching it doesn't understand why they're doing it. It doesn't make any sense at all. And so this is something that people do and have done for centuries, thousands of years. I mean, someone has to come up with these ideas, right? Like some perverted, twisted person that's, that's maybe a little bit smarter than the rest of the tribe or whatever it is, becomes an elder in the tribe or something, and pushes these ideas. And, you know, royal people, people who get wealthy and have this idea that they're somehow genetically better than other people through being kings, and, you know, royal people, they start getting into twisted shit. That's part of it. But who knows how these things come about, right? But we do know people do weird shit and things that are counterproductive, and just you know, something that people cannot stop doing because they grow up with it. Like, it's hard for you to break this cycle. I mean, when they see people, like these tribes see people who are from other countries, men who are bigger and stronger than they are, right? Because that's going to happen. You know, some of these tribes are relatively small, right? And they see men who are bigger and stronger than them, and they realize those men don't do this, but they still continue doing these rituals because it's something that they do. It's really hard to get people to break away from their rituals. It's really hard for people to break away from their indoctrination and their early training and all the things that they learned in the culture they grew up with, right? It becomes a fundamental building block of your, you know, your personality. So there's a kid in the first treatment center I worked in, and everybody liked him, right? Nice kid. You know, he's Hispanic, and he, you know, I didn't know, nobody really kind of knew this in the beginning. You had to read the kid's chart when they came in, but somehow this came out later. So he's probably between 10 and 12 years old when he was in the treatment center when we found out about this. And he was, his parents left him alone. He might have been 4, and he had 4 kids. They were like, you know, 4, 5, 3, 2, maybe a baby, something like that. Like some, you know, he was like 4 years old when it happened. And the house burned down that they were in. And the kids were by themselves. And he remembers seeing one of his siblings like melt, like he had this memory. And, you know, I talked to him about it, and I'm like, you know, that's not your fault, right? He's like, no, it's my fault, man. It's my fault. He just gets into this thing like he would get, you know, and so I'm like, this kid's fucked, right? Because that's something, you know, forgive yourself for. I mean, it's clearly not his fault, because I'm like, you know, maybe when he has kids or something and he looks at his 4-year-old, you know, kids, and he realizes that that's fucked to leave your kids alone like that. But somehow the kid felt like it was his fault, and he was going to carry that burden for probably the rest of his life, even if he kind of, you know, like forgot about it or it became less or something. You know, it's buried in his subconscious clearly, like the way he reacted when we talked about it. I'm like, oh, that kid's screwed for the rest of his life. Like, he's not going to recover from that, right? This is just going to, you know, weigh him down and affect all his decision makings and how he feels about himself, and, you know, his right to be happy and all these things. I mean, so many different levels, right? So when human beings, and this has happened historically, go off the track of natural and, you know, divine behaviors, natural human behaviors and appropriate behaviors, and get into deviant shit, and that sort of splinters and goes across all these cultures, and all these people get into these ritualistic things, and, you know, dark magic, dark things, sexual abuse, all the stuff, murderous child sacrifices, you know, animal sacrifices, all the weird shit that's in Bibles and all this stuff. You know, it becomes part of, like, everybody's DNA, like it becomes a part of their human experience, but also a part of their culture. And, you know, people share nonverbal intelligence, energy. People rub off on each other. That's why, like, people who work in prisons oftentimes become like the prisoners. They become like criminals because they're around that environment, they're around that culture, these things, and the energy that they're exuding from the prisoners. It's like people all become scumbags in politics, because, you know, that's what people do there. Like, you hang out with degraded people, criminals, and we sing about Stockholm Syndrome, these things. Like that guy hanging out with the educated guy hanging out with the people who worshipped poisonous snakes or whatever that is. And so this is what human beings do. It's happened, you know, it's shown over and over again. Somebody walks in the room and they're angry, and that anger affects you and makes you angry and all these things. You know, on an energetic level, as well as in terms of just, you know, observation and connecting to people on a, you know, a conscious level through verbal exchanges and just all of it, right? So there's all these things that are, you know, woven into the human genome, into the human experience, and, like, it's just a lot of weird shit that people have engaged in, and, you know, and then you bring in what people have done in past lives that are buried in people in the form of these samskaras, these patterns of behavior, these impressions from previous existences. And so that's why the world becomes such a mess, especially when people are trending downwards, when they have the tendency to be, to look down instead of going upwards, going, evolving and de-evolving instead of evolving. I'm saying all this because in terms of wars or conflicts or, global culture where there's so many different peoples, I mean, even in one country alone, you have these various ethnicities and people of different social standing and economic standing and different lifestyles. People live in the city, country, these things, different accents, all this kind of stuff, right? Different languages. The language that you speak shapes the way that you perceive the world. People think in, words. Most people think in terms of words, right? In terms of dialect. And the type of language you have has an influence over the kind of person you are, the kind of orientation you have, right? And so in all that, there are ways for one group or, one demographic to piss off another demographic or multiple demographics. That's why it's so easy to divide people, right? It's so easy to fan the flames, triangulating. You have these controlling entities that triangulate between two groups, and they know how to seed the animosity between the two groups, right? So a clear example of this was in 2015, there was this overwhelming push to make transgender people get special treatment. It was, something that was not desired by the general population. Most people hadn't even ever met a transgender people. They were sort of a fringe group within the gay community. And they unleashed Caitlyn Jenner, and they, made this bathroom bill, which 60% of the people, well, first of all, there was a bathroom bill in North Carolina, right? And they said only biological men can use the men's room, and biological females use the woman's room, right? Which is, they had to make a law that something that was always understood. And there were some issues where some men dressed up like women and were sexually harassing or even worse, sexually assaulting women in the men's room. And so this was a concern for safety for young girls and women in general. You had these big giant guys going into the ladies' room. And North Carolina passed this law, and the NBA pulled the All-Star game from the city of Charlotte. And 60% of the people didn't like this at all. They didn't agree with it. They didn't believe in it. I mean, it was forced, and within a short period of time, within a year. Like, nobody had really heard much about transgender people. And then all of a sudden they were making all these rules and adjusting all this, all these types of behavioral type of things that affected everybody. It's really difficult when things actually affect you. You think about how many people get upset and freaked out about things like immigration, and they never see an illegal immigrant. And the illegal immigrant isn't doing anything to them personally. Not taking their jobs, not assaulting them, not doing anything. But the fear that they see on Fox News makes them very, anxious and hateful towards immigrants. But when you see a man coming into a ladies' room and you're, a woman with your daughter, you feel you're a woman, maybe you've experienced some sexual abuse, and this giant guy is using the stall next to you, and it triggers anxiety, that's like real stuff. And the American people didn't want this at all. These corporations all got on board, and they are pushing this, and they push the whole thing with pronouns and all that shit. And those of you who remember this, who've been around this channel for a while, I said, just let it happen. I said, wait till these 6'4" dudes there's so many of these big giant guys who are playing female sports. Wait till these liberal suburban parents see have their daughter come home crying because he's just been mauled. I mean, I saw this guy from Australia who was like 6'5", 250, like built like a linebacker, playing handball with these, the game handball with girls who were like in high school. He was just, physically dominating them, right? And I said, just wait till this starts happening. So you see girls getting hurt playing sports with, basically like grown-ass men, right? And wait till these liberals will just flip the fuck out, because it'll affect them more, because it'll be in their liberal communities where these things will get passed, these types of things, right? Where, Democrats live. I said, just let it happen, right? You too. I had a whole bunch of videos about just let it happen. I said, wait till these women, these feminist women, and these lesbian women who play sports have to deal with men, taking biological men, winning Women of the Year and taking their spots on the roster and these things. Wait till that starts happening, which, you know, they don't come out and say it, but that happened. A lot of liberals got pissed off. And then, you know, you knew this was going to happen, right? It was 100% going to happen because they gave this group better treatment. Like Dave Chappelle did a comedy bit on it, how they jumped over black people in terms of, you know, people were more concerned, or the powers that be were more concerned about transgender rights, putting more money and effort into a small fringe population in America. And I said, you know, this is going to piss everybody off. Because one of the things that you never want to do is give somebody special treatment. You know, if a student has if a teacher has a favorite student, or a parent has a favorite kid, all the other kids are going to get jealous of that kid. You start giving people special treatment, whatever they may be, a demographic of people, and all the other groups are resentful. I often tell this story. You know, when I got back from my first trip to India, I moved from Massachusetts to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I worked in Los Alamos, which is like 2 hours away. I had this long commute. And one of the guys I worked with was like a Division II linebacker, a big football player. And the job he had before this job was he'd take kids out, troubled kids out, who, you know, who were like, they had gone through all kinds of other programs and failed, into the wilderness. And they would learn camping skills, and they would learn, you know, survival skills and things like this. And it was funny because my roommate was doing the same job. He was doing it with richer kids, but basically the same job. And I never heard of this thing before. And there was a time where this guy went out, and you were supposed to have 2 staff with you, right? So you'd have 2 adults with 12 kids. I mean, 3 adults with 12 kids. And so they were out in like the middle of Arkansas, some crazy, you know, rural place. And one of the staff didn't show up. And they started camping, and the other staff said, I can't handle this, and just left him. So he's alone with 12 kids. And so, like, he had to make sure that these kids were, you know, didn't start plotting and realizing that they could, you know, because these were like murderous, troubled, you know, sometimes like gang kids or whatever. And so when he saw 2 kids getting close, he would give one of them a chocolate bar. And the kid, you know, these kids were selfish and they wouldn't share. And that would break up the relationship, the friendship, because the other kid would get jealous and these things, right? Like, he had to do things to make sure these kids didn't, you know, form alliances and do all these things that would jeopardize, like, everybody's safety, right? Well, I'm saying all this because what you have with what's going on with Israel and the Jewish people, you know, you already have a group of people that calls themselves the chosen ones, right? Who believe that they're specially chosen by God. So that's already a problem. There's things that they talk about, the Goy, the Goy, which many of you guys know about, you know, which is referring to people like their livestock. So there's these things within the culture itself that is off-putting to people. And then you have this historical problem for them where they piss everybody off in country after country. So this thing it's a historical pattern, right? And so the kind of special treatment that America is giving Israel, and the kind of special treatment they're getting for what they're doing to the Palestinian people, where they can, you know, I mean, I got some stuff in this video. I'm going to lead with this stuff with Trump. I had some other stuff before it, but I'm going to do the Trump stuff tomorrow. We put this, you know, this memo out, this tweet out, and basically saying if the, you know, with the Hamas holes, which is an Israeli asset, doesn't agree to everything, and the deal negotiated without them, right? You know, that it was a deal negotiated between America and Israel. If they don't accept Trump's deal without any negotiation, that all hell is going to break loose, like you said before. He's going to let Israel just unleash on the people of the Palestinian people, not Hamas, the Palestinian people in Gaza, which is what Israel has wanted all along. But then Netanyahu showing up and going after our freedom of speech and conducting an open propaganda campaign, all the stuff that I showed you in these these things that are going on, there is going to be major backlash. There's a clip, I don't know if I've covered it yet. One of my viewers sent it to me, but I'll include it in the video today. I think I already taped it. It's for tomorrow when I put this thing together. And it's these group of Jewish guys going out in the woods and burning a deer on a pallet. And just, these people in New Jersey and these other places, they're starting to go south on this particular group, just like with transgender people. You can see it coming, right? Like the inevitable backlash. Because if I can see it coming, the people that are orchestrating this narrative can certainly see it coming, right? You can tell when, there's going to be backlash, when people are given special privileges, special treatment, when they're given, sort of a, whatever you call this thing that's going on, the stuff with transgender people, and, they're given all these privileges and they're given exemptions from social behavior other people don't get. As opposed to when you target people, the government targets people like immigrants or whoever it is, people feel some sort of sympathy and feel like, people like the underdog, people who are scapegoated. But this is clearly intentional because there's a historical context about this, like I said, and you see that the way that Israel's acting, Bibi Netanyahu is just such an unlikable piece of shit, just really horrible person. Just, he exudes like all the qualities that people dislike. That they are, pushing this, the people to turn on the Israeli people and by, association, all the Jewish people, right? Like it's just right there in front of you. This is an accident. You know how to piss people off. Like most people know how to piss other people off, right? No, people know how to systematically piss people off. Like someone gets in a bad mood and they want to take everybody down and they just systematically go from person to person and piss them off, right? You see this in families and whatever. People know what to do to make people dislike them. People know how to troll people. People know how to, push people away, right? It's like, if you didn't want to break up with somebody, you act in such a way so the person breaks up with you. Like everyone has some of that in them, and they can recognize when other people are doing it on purpose. They're trying to piss other people off. And so when you see like that, like a whole country do it, right? And you see that, the sentiment starts to arise. Like America, all of a sudden now, 50% of people don't want to give Israel any money anymore. And they realize that Israel is a parasite and the information is coming out more and more. And you have people speaking up who never spoke up before, and this, the protests and people on the right and the left. And then Israel comes in and says, you guys are all fucked in the head, you're insane and you're Nazis if you criticize us. And so, what do you think is going to happen, right? And so this is, where we're at, and this is intentional. There's some reason for this. And whatever it is, we'll see it play out. But, it's undeniable, not an accident. All right, so let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so today is Saturday the 4th, I believe. September 4th. On September 3rd, this came out. My wife sent me this. So 680,000 dead. Based on all the data collected, the death toll in Gaza is at least 680,000. And 380,000 are infants under the 5 years of age. Children, it should say. So, there's no way for me to know the numbers, right? But it's in the hundreds of thousands. So, and it's not just, it's one thing to kill people, but it's another thing to destroy their infrastructure. I mean, it takes a long time to build the capacity to give electricity to 1 million, whatever's left there, 1.5 million people or whatever, 1.2 million, whatever's left there. Right? I think there was originally 2 million there. So the infrastructure, the roads, the buildings, just clearing out the rubble. Where's the rubble go? That place is densely populated. They're pinned up against the ocean. So then what do they use to clear out the rubble? They don't have machines. If they do have machines, where are they going to get the fuel from? It would take maybe 50 years to build that back to where it was before Israel bombed the shit out of it and Israel committed genocide. So, there's no coming back from this, right? Like any part of it. And, there's toxic shit in there God knows what a kind of, maybe they used depleted uranium. Who knows what they used in terms of the, in the bombs and these other things. And, all the toxic shit that leaks out when you bomb a building, all the fires, all the shit that's out there, all the chemicals, all the, whatever's there, right? So, it's a massive, it's like uninhabitable until they, and Israel can come in with American money to the Halliburton-like project to rebuild something. So, this is, doesn't matter what the numbers are in terms of the death toll, because they've wrecked this fucking place, right? And so that's the first piece to this. So Fox put out a video called "It's a Big Day for Peace," but they didn't play the beginning part where Trump actually thanks other countries, which is like a miracle. But here,
I want to thank the countries that helped me put this together: Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others. So many people fought so hard. This is a big day. We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down in concrete. Very importantly, I look forward to having the hostages come home to their parents, and having some of the hostages, unfortunately, the condition they're in,
dead,
come home likewise to their parents, because their parents wanted them just as much as though that young man or young woman were alive. So I just want to let you know that this is a very special day, maybe unprecedented in many ways. It is unprecedented, but thank you all, and thank you all to those great countries that helped. We were given a tremendous amount of help. Everybody was unified in wanting this war to end and seeing peace in the Middle East, and we're very close to achieving that. Thank you all, and everybody will be treated fairly.
Everybody will be treated fairly, right? And so, can you believe this motherfucker, right, comes in and celebrating this thing like he's done something great here? He is complicit in a genocide of killing maybe as many as 600-something thousand people, but all of it, the country is wrecked, all the things that I said, right? I was talking to my wife about the depleted uranium, and she made a good point about, well, like if they use that kind of stuff, then they wouldn't be able to live there themselves, so it's unlikely that that's the case. But, the toxicity of war, and then just rebuilding the infrastructure and all those things, those people are fucked. And so Israel's going to glom as much of Gaza as they can. I said this in the beginning. This is their one chance to get it, and they're going to just get it through whatever means possible. The Hamas holes are an Israeli asset. There's nothing that would convince me of otherwise, because, again, well, let's show you this other clip here.
This is a big day. We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down in concrete. Very importantly, I look forward to having the hostages come home to their parents. Everybody was unified in wanting this war to end and seeing peace in the Middle East, and we're very close to achieving that.
As we prepare to mark 2 years since the October 7th terrorist attacks this week, we have one of the most significant developments in some time. Hamas partially agreeing to the White House's...
Okay, so any president, he could have been President Biden or any president before him, Trump before him, and all the other presidents, and then Trump now, could have said to Israel, yeah, we're not going to give you any more money. Now, maybe they would get rid of that president and, whatever they would do to counter that, sure. But Trump could have said, and, with the popularity turning against Israel, it would get easier and easier. He could come out and just explain the deal that Israel's been getting to the American people. And, the liberals are already on board, so he's got a group of people he never would have. And then all of the Trumpers that would, all those other people would fall in line and turn on them, right? And say how they bribed people in the government, how we give them billions of dollars and they give us nothing back. That's all he would have to say. And Biden could have done it, but Trump could have more easily have done it recently. And then say, get out of Gaza. Or they would be like out there on their own, like a turtle without its shell, with all these predatory countries around them, and they would have no chance. They would have nothing but, he could just say this behind closed doors to Netanyahu. Yeah, we're gonna pull our ambassadors out of your country, and we're gonna say big fuck you to you, and we're gonna cut off all funding, and that they were completely controllable, right? They're parasites, like you're cutting off their existence. So Trump could have done that any time, but he sat back and watched, because Trump is a real estate developer, and he has, done gentrification, moved poor people and old people out of areas so that he can build his crappy Trump Plaza bullshit kind of developments. Or he's a slum lord as well, and he's an elitist. He's a Jeffrey Epstein elitist, and so he didn't care about any of those Palestinian people. And whatever, he's not a caring person. He's not a nice person. He's not a warm person. He's not a loving person. I mean, when he said those things, did they give you a extra slice of bread or anything? He was talking to the Israeli hostages. Did they ever show you any kindness? Meanwhile, Israel is destroying the whole, habitat for 2 million people, making it uninhabitable, so that they have to leave. And they can block everything from coming in there. They have blockades in the ocean. They can stop human rights activists from getting there. And even if they do get there, what are they going to do? They need equipment. You need billions and billions of dollars to restructure that area. The only people that have the money to do that shit is American taxpayers. And Trump is already on board for paying for it, right? I mean, he posted that. I'll go back to that. Let's go to the Gaza thing here. So the AI designers who created this were doing it as a joke. Or not as a joke, but like they were playing around with AI tests. They didn't think this was serious. And Trump's people posted this. It's so fucking offensive, right? That they would move those people out. There's a bearded ladies dancing, big fucking Trump balloons, and make this into Trump Gaza. Or he's dancing with a belly dancer stripper. Trump Gaza, all this stuff. Trump statue, look at all this gaudy shit, Elon. And these two fat fucks sitting by a pool. I mean, it's obscene that he would put that as a vision, as something that he'd like to see. There's people that are living there. And he wants to get rid of them. He said right off the bat, we have to find a way to move them out of the country. And that's still all going to be, all of it, right? Just making sure this is still real. Thought I must have hit my head and hallucinated a president doing something this diabolical. But nope, it actually happened. It hasn't aged well. In fact, it wasn't well to begin with. Over time it gets worse, right? Like it just gets worse and fucking worse. And this is who he is. He's a real estate developer. He thinks it's a good idea. Because he's elitist. Like he's not the fucking Trump that the dumb fuck Trumpers fell for. Now this is what I mean about dumb fuckistan. You're just imagining that this guy cares about you and other people, and he doesn't. Make Trump great again. It's never been make America great again. Trump is a grifter and a piece of shit. And, it was obvious when he was on The Apprentice and even before that, but he wasn't as bad as he is now then. But he's always been about himself. Divorced 3 times, cheated on all his wives, prostitutes, strippers, porn stars, all these things. I mean, he's just always pushing the law. He's an environmental nightmare. I mean, the guy's just horrible. Like, he's gross, fat, fucking Jabba the Hutt looking motherfucker, right? And this is what he is. And so, let's go to this other thing here. So before this happened...
Live now from Fox, we do have some breaking news as President Trump has now given Hamas a Sunday deadline to end the war. You're taking a live look there in Gaza right now as we do continue to read you the latest of what we're learning here. President Trump saying Hamas must agree to a proposed peace deal for Gaza by 6.
Here it is right here. This is him trying to look like a tough guy. An agreement must be reached with Hamas by Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Washington, D.C. time. Every country has signed on. Every country, no, because Palestine isn't a country. And Hamas is a terrorist organization, which you are, which is run by Israel. It's a, it's a false flag type, controlled opposition type situation. I mean, that's just always the most logical. The way I always look at these things is who benefits, right? Every time Hamas does something, Israel's plans are made possible. And the Palestinian people are screwed. Hamas does things to hurt the Palestinian people and help Israel. Every country has signed on. If this last chance agreement is not reached, all hell like no one has ever seen before will break out against Hamas. There will be no peace in the Middle East one way or another. There will be peace in the Middle East one way or another. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, so that means that the Palestinian people are even more fucked. Because the Hamas, every time they go after Hamas, millions of or hundreds of thousands of Palestinian people are killed, and their country is destroyed. The Gaza Strip, and so this is what he does, right? Like he's just a piece of shit. Like Israel's the aggressor. Israel's the one who's occupying the country. Israel's the one with the army. Israel is the one that has been deceptive over and over again. Israel has all the influence here in America and other places, and everyone in the world's turning against Israel. And this piece of shit is still backing him. Whether they've Jeffrey Epstein'd him, they got Jeffrey Epstein shit on him, whatever the reason, whatever his reason for this is, it's not a good one. Like, it's not about America making America great again. It's not about fulfilling his promises as a candidate, Trump, and it's not about MAGA. It's not about any of those things. It's about whatever reason Trump has here is some evil reason, either blackmail or whatever. Whatever way he's compromised in a bad way, which is, again, Israel is, up against it. Even Trump is up against it here. The tides have turned. And then, just like with the whole thing with Charlie Kirk, they needed to do something. But, we'll see if this thing holds. But either way, Israel's getting Gaza. And the Palestinian people do not have the ability and won't be able to connect with the resources to rebuild their country. So this is, it's over. It's fucked. Like, you destroyed a group of people right in front of everybody. You committed genocide, or at least taken over somebody's country. And these people will be dispersed, and they'll be, it's over. Like, whatever happens here, it isn't going to go back to the way it was, and it isn't going to get better for the Palestinian people, and Israel's going to get what they wanted all along. So Trump posted this on Truth Social. The party of hate, evil, and Satan. The Democratic Party is dead. They have no leadership, no message, no hope. Their only message for America is to hate Trump. That part is true. Like, this part on the bottom is actually true. I've been saying this for years. That's true. Not to hate Trump, but just to say we're not Trump. Use Trump. They have, things that nobody would agree to. And Trump has things that only morons agree to. Neither one of them has a plan to save a country that is doomed no matter what in terms of its collapsing, right? But to call them the party of hate, evil, and Satan, all the people who are Democrats, all the people in the country, you think they're all going to become Trumpers? Like, the Trumpers are leaving Trump. The Trumpers realize Trump is, he's hemorrhaging support. Like, he was best buddies with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump has very little support left. And the Democratic people will never agree to, the people who are Democrat in the Democratic Party. And the liberals, those people are all evil, right? It's the party of hate, evil, and Satan. They're not the ones that are bringing in martial law. They're not the ones who are backing Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people. They're not the ones who did all those bullshit tariffs that have suddenly disappeared. All the kind of stuff that Trump does, right? Like, just bad. Like, everything that Trump has done is bad. They didn't just sign a deal with fucking Pfizer, right? The list goes on forever. Everything that Trump's doing is bad. They didn't do the Doge thing. The Maha movement's collapsed into him making a deal with Pfizer. All of it, like, up and down. I have some clips on the TV I have to copy and put in here. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. But next. But it's a fucking mess, right? Because of him. And you can't say stuff like they're the party of hate, evil, and Satan. That's, then you're not. Like, yeah, you both are, right? Like, you both are satanic. You're both demonic. But you're the demon with all the fucking power right now. And you're misusing that power. It's just obscene. It's just like, you can't. It's just so bad. And so all the people that voted for him, all the dumb fucks, he showed you. I can understand the first term. I was very happy the night Trump won presidency because I was loving the liberal media, crying and weeping and fucking falling apart. I was happy. My kids remember me just being giddy for a week. because Trump had given up in the last debate. It was clear that he knew he was going to lose. The polls were against him. He was only doing this as a publicity stunt. He just wasn't fighting back in the last debate against Hillary Clinton. He was like showing his belly. He was like, you know, he had sort of conceded. But somehow election night happened and Trump didn't have a ground game. Hillary had twice as much money. I mean, whatever they did there, well, I don't know if they rigged it or just people hated Hillary so much and, you know, all the things that were going on. But Trump won that first election. And then he just started acting totally unpresidential, and he was driving the people nuts. And I was happy about it. Like, it was great. But then, you know, he got worked on COVID. He rolled out Operation Warp Speed. He got totally worked on that. Then he got worked on January 6th. And he then turned on all his people, sent them up to D.C. He disavowed all these people because he's a disloyal piece of shit, right? He's a, you know, not a stand-up guy. He turned on the supporters that he, you know, led down a fucking deep path. The Cubies went and hid in holes because they were, you know, expecting some, you know, deep state determination of deep state, and Trump got completely rolled. And, you know, all their shit turned out to be false. Of course, they rebooted because they're stupid and they're from Dumbfuckistan, right? Where the earth is flat and the people are dumb. And so I just made that up. And so he came out, and then, you know, there was 4 years of fake persecution of Trump, where he never really paid any money, and he didn't go to jail, and nothing ever happened. He was convicted of felonies, and that just disappeared. Then the Supreme Court ruled that a president can do anything they want, and they'll never be nothing they can do is considered criminal. And then they put Trump back in again, like I said they would, after that bullshit fake assassination attempt. And then it wasn't fun anymore. The presidency was, you know, Trump's presidency, the first 3 years was fun. The last so many years after that, leading to this point where we're at now, have not been fun. Trump is just a piece of shit, and he's annoying, and his, you know, his character arc jumped the shark years ago. Like, he's just, you know, they just don't have anything else, and he gives them so much, but he's just unbearable, like everything he does, and he's just going down a dark path of destroying the country. Now, I've said before, I believe God and the powers that be need to destroy the system, the global system, for people to at least do something to where it shakes people up and they are open to connecting to the divinity within them, which people aren't right now, and turning the ship around, because we're going in the wrong fucking direction. So, you know, he's doing God's work in that sense, but, you know, so it's both things are true. You know, that Trump is instrumental in bringing about a spiritual renaissance after taking the system down, but he also is a worthless piece of shit, and he does stuff like this, right? And, you know, the party of hate, evil, and Satan, you have a division in this country, and we now are in a civil war, and we have been now for the whole Trump era. Trump has brought in a civil war. They've used Trump to bring in a civil war. He just was himself. They just put him in the position to do it, right? And so that's where we are right now.
But y'all, I ain't scared.
No one said you were scared, Hips. It's just a sombrero. Democrats called Trump a Nazi and let him get shot in the head. He ain't scared. They didn't demand answers after Butler, but now they want Mike Johnson to investigate Sombrero Gate.
Okay, so is there a bigger piece of shit than Jesse Waters? I mean, they all suck, but he's a little bit more smug than everybody else. Which, you know, I mean, there's times it's kind of funny when he's right, which is very rarely. He's 100% wrong, because Trump's a pussy, right? And I'm not saying that like being a tough guy is something that I value, you know, all this stuff. You know, having a soft heart, being sensitive to other people's feelings, you know, all these things are valuable spiritually. Acting all macho and all like a tough guy, all that shit, it's all egotistical bullshit, you know, it's all posturing, animalistic behavior. But they try to make Trump into a tough guy, and he's a pussy. Physically, he's a pussy, right? He's a bully and a pussy. He's not, you know, there was a time, I showed this video clip a long time ago when I covered Ketchupgate. Trump, there was some kind of a disturbance at behind him, and the Secret Service rushed in. He was all panicked and, you know, just whatever, all rattled. which is fine. That's okay. Like, that's, you know, yeah, I can understand that. I have no problem with that. Just don't fake like you're a tough guy. And it was just all WWE bullshit, posturing, all that kind of stuff, right? When Trump acts like a tough guy, like if he wanted to be a tough guy, well, he could have went to Vietnam. He could have done, you know, any number of things, but be the piece of shit that he is. But he wasn't shot in the head. Now, the official story, which is bullshit, is he was grazed on the ear, right? A less than 2 centimeter cut, which could be no cut at all, right? Trump's official doctor said it was less than a 2 centimeter cut that didn't need stitches because it didn't exist. And, you know, the blood had dried by the time the fake blood, the ketchup, but if you believe in the official story, the blood had dried by the time he stood up. It was no longer bleeding. You can see it, that the cut was, you know, the non-existent cut was healed. And then he came out with a maxi pad at the convention, and then when this piece of shit, Jesse Waters, interviewed him, he had a little Band-Aid on it. It was like 7 days after the event, and then he kept that little Band-Aid on for another 6 days, and then he took it off and was on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan said, you know, there doesn't seem to be any kind of scar. And Trump went, it's a little bit, it's a little bit.
Right over here.
Oh, it's a tiny little mark.
It zicked right there.
Yeah. But it healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little.
No, you didn't get cauliflower.
No. The point of the bullet was a little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit.
How's your ear?
Good. Getting much better. We're getting down to the small bandages. But it was a nasty one, and it was a nasty period. That was exactly 1 week ago from today, exactly. And, you know, when you think about it, that's been a lot of territory covered. Who would have thought this was going to be happening? But it happened, and I got very lucky. Or God. I think it was God, actually.
Who are like, why is the president wearing an ear bandage? He got shot in the ear, and these are the same people who were wearing masks, right, 5 years after COVID, so it's pretty ridiculous.
When you were down by the podium, we heard a lot of kerfuffle. You said something about shoes.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, they wanted to put me on a stretcher. They had a stretcher, and they wanted to put me on a stretcher, and I said, I'm not going on a stretcher, because I just felt it was the ear, and there was a lot of blood coming. I don't know if you've heard this, but the ear causes, they say, the most in the body. You get hit in the ear. Better than just about any other place in one way, but in another way it bleeds more. And there was a lot of blood, but I understood. They thought I was hit elsewhere. They thought I was hit actually in this area. And I wasn't. I said, I'm telling you, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm going to get up. I want to get up. I'm not going to be taken out on a stretcher. We had a little argument. Well, I have 6 guys lying on top of me. I mean, I had some big guys on top of me.
Yeah.
Strong guys, too. I can tell you that by the wrist. The wrist had a little work on it. And brave guys, because they ran onto that stage very quickly. I was down for the most part, because when I looked at my hand, I knew it was something very serious. I put my hand up. I looked at it. It had blood all over it. But I had a lot of big, strong humans on top of me, and they were very brave humans because they were running into fire.
So they're going to make this coin for Trump, apparently. Some person put it up on Instagram. I haven't checked it out, but sounds right. With the fight, the bullshit fight thing, right? And so he wasn't shot in the head. The official story was he was nicked in the ear, and that isn't even true. So that didn't happen. And so the fact that it didn't happen, Jesse Waters, is the reason why they didn't fucking investigate, because it didn't fucking happen. You're not going to investigate something that didn't happen because, you know, most people kind of knew. I mean, at some level, everybody knew. It was so WWE. It was so fake. You know, so here's the thing about that, and I've said it over and over again, that when they were planning this piece of shit thing, because it was horrible, if the bullet just missed Trump and killed some other people, you know, that doesn't do much. Like, that's you talk about that for a week, right? The difference between what happened to Charlie Kirk, and you can say it's a hologram or they were using prosthetics, but we saw blood, we saw his body move like it got hit by a bullet, and we saw blood gushing out of his neck. That's what we all saw. It could be a deception or it could be an illusion. There's all these ways we could say it's not true, but that's not even really provable to whatever extent. Certainly not in terms of everyone's going to accept it's fake, right? And so Charlie Kirk, as far as most people are concerned, is dead. And, it's really hard to dispute something like that. It's stupid to even try. Like, people send me all this stuff, and I mention it, but I don't go into it because there's no way to actually prove it. I mean, there's no way to prove most of this stuff, but you look kind of like a dick, right? Like, if, when everyone else thinks this guy was shot in the throat, and when I first saw it, it looked pretty real, like when I saw the video. It's a quick video, but it looks very realistic. And I know that they can fake all that stuff, but, when something looks that realistic and you see it, and there's an emotional reaction by so many people, you really can't push it's fake too hard or whatever. And there's no future in that, right? But with Trump, he's not dead. So for it to pop, he needed to bleed. This is where it becomes a WWE thing. Because if the bullet just goes by him, then, yeah, that's something, but it's not as big as a deal of him actually getting clipped. And so they figured the ear was the best place. Because the ear represents another inch and he's dead, right? Another inch and he's got a bullet through the brain. Or, a little bit more than that, but, it was that close, right? So much so that Jesse Waters says they shot the president in the head, which is fucking ridiculous because he went on your fucking show and he's wearing a Band-Aid like a pussy because he's trying to hide the fact there was no fucking wound there. Because when he got up from the stage, the blood had stopped. The blood was dry. Like when he got up from those guys and all the bullshit that happened before and all the bullshit I covered, I've got an extensive playlist when I called this out, like, right after it fucking happened. I said this was bullshit. This is totally WWE. And then the WWE bullshit that he rolled out. I mean, it was so bad. So dumb fuckistan, right? So low vibration. And so, so low consciousness. The whole WWE Republican National Convention when he came out with that big maxi pad on his ear, which he didn't need at all. He didn't need a Band-Aid at all. There are some cuts that you don't need a Band-Aid for. You guys all know that, right? Only if you don't want dirt to get in there, but it's, it stopped bleeding almost immediately, and then you might put a Band-Aid on for a day to keep it clean. And then it's just like the Band-Aid's like making it worse, once you take it off. And it's already started to heal, within 24 hours, and the next 2 days, like you already forgot about it by the second day. And so if there was a real cut on his ear, but there wasn't, because the ear just made sense, right? We can make it bleed from the ear, and it looks like it's rolling down his face, and he can get up and mouth the words, fight, 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 like he's some sort of a tough guy, and he can look like a fucking... It was a totally WWE performance. If you go and you search for his WWE wrestling match against Vince McMahon, you see the same kind of bullshit, right? He's already done that shit. So the whole thing was fake. So when it's fake, you don't investigate, right? And so this is like how bad Fox News is. I mean, MSNBC and CNN, we know they suck. But Fox News and Jesse Waters, I mean, this is just ridiculous. Yeah, the sombrero thing is kind of goofy, and it's just everything's degraded. And a lot of that's because of Trump, but most of that, a big part of that's because of the Democrats' obsession with Trump. Like, the Democrats aren't good, but they're denutted. The Democrats can do nothing but fucking get up there and, like, impotently, impotently get up there and just say, I don't fucking Trump, Trump, stop it off to Trump. They're like the bully that can't do anything about they're like the bully's victim who's taking their lunch money. It's like Trump is taking their lunch money, right? But Trump is not the guy that they're saying is, and that thing was fake as fuck. And because nobody called it out back then, I mean, people like me, there's only a few of us in the truth community that called it out. And the Democrats certainly weren't going to do that because they have faked so many bullshit things themselves. That's the reason Trump's fucking doing what he's doing now. Every bit of damage that Trump's doing now stemmed from that WWE fake bullshit thing. Had they called that out back then, if the truth community called it out, all you truthers that just went along with it, I mean, you're more complicit than anybody else, because everyone in the truth community just said, "Oh, that was fake as fuck. This guy's just like everybody else, but he's worse." So I started this video yesterday, covered Turning Point, and they've imploded. I mean, their content's so bad, it's like really unwatchable, even from a standpoint of people who like that shit. It's so boring and so lacking in energy, lacking in life force, and some Erika Kirk's thing. Let's go to that here. All right, greetings, brothers and sisters. Friday, October 3rd, starting the video for tomorrow. Is that supposed to be NGO? I'm not sure the significance of the. We know the G ring that she had. She's dabbing her eyes with a wad of $100 bills. So well done, meme. You know, the memes are an indication of how things are going, right? And so I know they're really trying to push her as sincere and, you know, all that shit. Look at the amount of makeup she's got on. Shit, it's like caked on there. Brutal. But, you know, it's the memes and everything else that I've seen and the amount of comments. You know, people may be afraid to talk about it in the truth community. People who have right-wing audience who, you know, still have Trumpers come to them. But, you know, I think the majority of people see that, and especially people who are, you know, any little bit of consciousness in the truth community, see that she's like just a nightmare. It's always harder on women. Like, it's, you know, especially in this kind of circumstance. When they come down on women, it's always worse. You know, because women who don't like a woman, when a woman's unlikable to other women, and it just gets, it turns into a, you know, women will dislike another woman more than they will a man. And, you know, in most circumstances, you know, like a Hillary or a Kamala, or any of these number of women. And so when these women turn on you, and when the right-wing woman turns on, you know, whenever somebody who seems as a betrayer, right? People who like Charlie Kirk and believed in him, and then see her as a fraud. So that's, you know, so that's the first piece here. You know, anything can be doctored. One of my viewers sent me this, but, you know, I'm just putting this out there as a possibility.
Charlie Kirk was a hologram. Y'all, check it out. Check it out. See the fence? See the fence lines? Fence line in his arm. Going across. Fence line coming up. Y'all.
So there's supposed to be fence line here and here. Let me turn the mute off. It's supposed to be a fence line here and here. You know, people could add that. It's not like some, you know, some big thing to do, but it could be organic. And, you know, whatever. I mean, yeah, I covered the hologram theory before. I don't care. And the thing is that when you let go of, like, one of the things psychologically is that people like things resolved. I've talked about this before. I haven't talked about this in a while. So when I first started doing my meditation, and I finally graduated after my third attempt at getting my bachelor's degree, you know, because I was kind of a, you know, underachiever. And I lived in a shared house. The guy who rented the house, you know, he rented the house and subletted it to me and another guy around my age who ran a garage, but he's sort of a new age person, recovering drug addict. Someone I got along with, really liked him. He's a good guy. And a single mom who worked at Smith College, this is in Massachusetts. And the garage guy and the single mom got together. They ended up getting married. And we were all playing cards one night. We didn't hang out a lot, but we were playing cards. This guy, the guy who owned the house, he used to go to parties and dressed like kids' parties and dressed in stilts. He was kind of an old hippie, kind of a strange guy. He had a couple of kids that he shared custody with, and he ran us like a small daycare in his house. And then on the weekends he'd go and do these shows, and he had all these games. Like he was called the Games Man. He had all these games. He did all this kind of you know, whatever it is, like just weird, obscure games. And we were playing cards, and it got late, and we were all tired, and we didn't finish the game. And he said the next morning, how did everyone sleep? And I was like, oh, they didn't sleep well. And he was like, well, you know, if you don't resolve the game, you'll play it all night, right? And, you know, it's like when you're watching a movie or a TV show with a cliffhanger and you get really into it and then you think about it all night, you dream about it, you know, this kind of thing. Because the human mind wants resolution. And that's, you know, remember the show Lost is a good example of this. Lost would solve one mystery but give you two more. And leaving you in a state of like suspended gratification, I mean, your mind needing resolution. And so you're never going to get that. That's one of the problems with the truth community and why so many people are drawn to it. Because you never get to the end of the rabbit hole. You never get to the bottom of it. It's all this speculation. And, you know, people, I mean, maybe think they know, but they don't really. And so when you release that, when you just, all right, you know, I don't need to know this. When you release this idea that you're going to get some sort of closure, your life will be a lot better. So this, she's my kind of crazy video that I showed you with the symbolism, and you know, people are dissecting that left and right. My wife sent me a video about it. I watched a little bit of it. It had, you know, it really, you know, really getting into all the symbolism and things with it. But here is a making of the video.
The benefit of the music video for My Kind of Crazy, because Erika is that kind of crazy, and she is perfect for the role.
She's that kind of crazy.
I've done this before, and I'm
It's Erika and Tyler, so you know there's that, right?
Deathly afraid of heights.
You are.
Awkwardly, deathly mortified, afraid of heights. But
it's okay. It's
we'll
fun.
see what happens.
It's a lot of fun.
They told me.
You know what you're not afraid of? Having giant man hands and money.
They only go 20 miles an hour.
We'll see though.
But that does not include looking down. I'll survive, I promise you. I don't know what facial expressions I'll have.
Just don't let go.
I bet you'll smile a lot and then dab your eyes every once in a while and put on that pouty, oh, I'm so sad face. And then you'll smile again and then you'll laugh and then you'll do the pouty face again.
She'll fall.
I'm not allowed to let go, so I can only kick my feet and scream.
High five.
No. Okay.
Okay, so this is, you know, this is the part I wanted to show you.
High five. I don't want to do it.
Like, she's given, like, they probably don't even know each other maybe for a day or two, right? You know how she glommed all over Trump. And this kind of is like beta sex kid in sexually abused kind of behavior where, you know, girls who are just always smiling, very flirtatious, and, you know, very touchy, very huggy, right? Like, you know, people have different levels of comfort when it comes to physical touch. And I'm on the opposite end of her. Like, so, you know, there's this video out there where Kesha, the singer Kesha, met Jerry Seinfeld, and she said, can I give you a hug? And he said, nope. And she goes, please. She kept on pushing it, right? And he didn't want to do it, and he didn't know who she was. And I mean, even if he did, you know, whatever. She was a stranger. And people sort of hammered him for being cold or whatever. But, you know, going up and hugging and touching total strangers. You know, I noticed this when my kids were young. And I go to the store, and when my kids were babies and toddlers, people would come up and think they could just put their hands on them, right? You know, and I wasn't cool with that, you know, because you're just some fucking stranger. You know, like people will take liberties with kids. You know how I remember I had these aunts, who were, you know, I mean, just, they never got married and lived with their dad's house. It was, you know, I've talked about them before. But, you know, you have these people who are very, you know, physical with kids and people who are very touchy or whatever it is. And, you know, some people just don't like that, especially when they don't know you. And oftentimes when women are like this beta sex kid, you know, they've been sexually abused in some way. And they're very, you know, like going up and just, you know, hugging people in a flirtatious way and, you know, being like sexual with people. And she's totally that, right? She does this quite a bit. Like the guy asked for a high five, which is, you know, a comfortable level of physical contact, right? Like a handshake. There's some distance between you, right? And as you get more sensitive, if you meditate for a while, you can feel people's energy. And you can absorb it, and it doesn't feel great, especially if people are fucking crazy or just gross or whatever. What did he do here? Where did he put his hand right here? Tyler went for it. And then she goes on this thing.
Don't ever let go. Oh, look at them go.
Oh, man.
Why does the larger ones go faster than the skinnier ones?
I don't know. All right, we're about to go for it.
No.
It's really not much to it. You just, you walk out there, our guys will hook you up to the line with the trolley and the carabiner, and you just lift your feet and hold on tight and just have fun.
All right, baby, you ready? You have to go. Right when he goes.
He said, "You ready, baby? Ready?"
Go.
Okay, so that's when she went under 910. This is from the scene in the video where they go into, this thing right here. In the beginning of it here, they show you it, the zip line here.
Boulevard all the way.
So this is 910, the day that her husband eventually would be shot, allegedly. And she went, that was part of the video that she was in. It also says sweet.
This is the mansion of Charlie Kirk.
So this is Charlie Kirk's mansion. And, there's just that voice that's everywhere. But this is, it's got like swimming pool and tennis courts, and it's a mansion. And so he sold it for $5.5 million. He had a $1 million condo in Florida by the beach. They have a golf course over there, probably part of some gated community. They were, he was raking it in, right? Monica likes her money. Erika likes her money. So this guy who has almost zero personality, and he seems to be the guy taking over for Charlie in terms of this show, and he sucks at it, right? And, there's so much you can do as talking about Charlie. There's so much that's like, hey, Charlie this, Charlie that. Oh, Charlie this, will play a tape of Charlie. Like, that's going to fade. Charlie wasn't that great. I don't think he had the level of fans that they say they do. I don't think he had the kind of love, whatever. But it is what it is, right? He was making money and he was doing that. My dogs are barking up the store and probably somebody dropping off a package. And this one says, the alarming surge in left-wing assassination culture. Tom Homan's response. So there's two videos I'm going to show you about this. Okay, so we're really pushing this narrative. And this is what they're about. They're not developing any of the stuff about Israel, his Charlie's all the stuff that Candace Owens threw down about all the data she has, videos and the emails or whatever messages about his changing his opinion, and he was about to distance himself from Israel. They're not dealing with that. The direction Charlie was. They keep on saying this is what Charlie wanted, but it seems like they're not doing what where he was. Where his trajectory was. And they're shilling for martial law. I saw Fox News doing this. They haven't really been talking about this since Antifa and the BLM riots, which, led to the January 6th stuff. And when all those dopes at January 6th were tried as terrorists and insurgents, that whole thing, it was silly, right? What do they call that? Whatever they were calling that thing. And so, the right-wing people push back against that. It was stupid. And the left-wing people don't have some violent agenda. And to make the Charlie Kirk thing be about that, because they both use the same words, the same language. Calling people fascist is something Trump has done. The right wing is usually a little bit more insulting than the left wing in terms of the politicians, and like Fox is a little bit more aggressive than MSNBC and CNN, and they both engage in the same behaviors, and they only call it out on the other side because that's what they do. But right now Trump is pushing for martial law, and they're doing it. And then when they go after your guns, if they do go after your guns, if they think they can get them, they'll take a shot, but that could be the death of Trump as a Republican figure, right? But if they go after it, they're going to go after it because of the radical left-wing violence. So Turning Point USA has just turned to, they were before because they were promoting a genocide, but they've turned out to be just a piece of shit political shill organization using the Charlie Kirk martyrdom to push an agenda that's going to fuck over their donors and all the the patriotic people that like this guy.
I'm Andrew Colvett, executive producer of this show. I'm joined by a really dear friend of both the show, Turning Point USA, and of Charlie's, and that's Borders Are Tom Homan. Thank you so much, Tom, for making this trip out of your way to come see us.
The Borders Are, right? This is a, you know, one of the...
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, well, listen, you know, I just want to start with the obvious question. You know, you're sitting next to Charlie's empty chair.
Yeah, let's just fucking bring that up every fucking... every episode, right?
You know, you're hugging our team. I mean, I can see that this means a lot to you and it's affected you. So, you know, what has this meant to you? And
yeah, you know, could you not smile and yuck it up like Erika and tell us how excited you are for the...
You know, where do we go from here, you know?
Well, look, I'm a pretty tough guy, but...
Yeah, you look like a tough guy. Tom Homan. You're a tough guy, Tom Homan. You're, like I always said, look at that guy. Look at that tough guy. Here comes Wrangler, and he's one tough customer, and he knows what he likes when he sees it.
What happened to Charlie broke my heart.
It broke your heart. Like, I'm a tough guy until Charlie's hologram got shot.
There's your heart right out of your chest. Me and Charlie talk quite often. And
about me, you know, beating up immigrants and shooting them in the face. You know, shooting him in the neck, and then all of a sudden Charlie gets shot in the neck, and I'm like, hey, maybe that's not the right behavior.
I believe what he was doing. What he was doing is a big part of saving this country, just like President Trump. That's why I came back twice from retirement to help President Trump save this country. So,
yeah, he's not saving it, bro.
I made a commitment to Charlie and Turning Point. I'll do anything I can to help this organization.
Way to go, Tom. So this video's been up a couple of days, 3-4 days, and they've got 23,000 views. So they are not, I mean, people are not into their show anymore.
And I want to get your reaction. Play cut 57.
I want to ask you about this Rutgers report.
Good morning.
On the Network Contagion Research Center. This is their conclusion, okay? Users online are increasingly associating the memification of Luigi Mangione with calls for political violence against Elon Musk, President Trump, and others, reflecting the growing cyber-social presence of assassination culture.
It's assassination culture. These left-wing fucking pussies they're all getting into assassination because of Luigi Mangione and his thing where he took down that CEO of a insurance company that wouldn't pay your premiums and deny you health care.
And Aisha, you have some findings that they have here on justification.
It's alarming, and I want to put this up here. This is a justification for murder of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And you'll see here they found that when it came to the left of center, 50% thought that it was justified to murder Elon Musk, 56% for President Trump.
Wait, what is that here? The right of center. Yeah, because they're not going to want to murder Trump or Elon Musk. And they even have some of these. The right of center, right? There's Donald Trump. Who are the Reds? So right of center, it's 50. I don't understand their fucking graph here. So this is all responses. This is the left of center is the blue. Oh, so this is Trump. So only 20% of the right one thinks it's a justification. And they, you know, of course they're good. They're right-wing people. And 14% of the right-wing people think it's justified to murder Donald Trump. So that's pretty fucked, right? If 20% of the right-wing people think Trump should be fucking murdered, isn't that the bigger story, right?
Murder Elon Musk, 56% for President Trump.
So just to reiterate, Rutgers University has discovered that 50% of left-of-center respondents believed it is justified to murder Elon Musk for his opinions. 56% believed it's justified to kill Donald Trump.
It's crazy. You guys are just cutting the fucking core here. I can see why your show's doing so well. What's the response for Nancy Pelosi or Gavin Newsom? Why don't you roll those numbers, Fox News? Right?
Yes. And I'm assuming had they asked ICE agents about ICE or ICE agents, that number would be similar. What do you do in an environment like this?
Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't fold. You know, my dad taught me.
Yeah, just roll out the fucking troops and start cracking some liberal heads. Right? You know, so it's just a total deception. This show is so lame. The guy's so low energy. And this guy's even lower energy. I mean, it's just a mess. So this isn't the only thing they talked about this. Okay, so this is their videos here. Behind the scenes look at TPUSA, how it's grown since Charlie's death or assassination, whatever they're calling it. It's only been up a couple hours, but only has 3,000 views. This one's been up 3 hours. Netflix is going after your kids, and they're not even hiding it. And that's 3 hours. So that's, you know, there's been demonic programming. I covered that fucking 5 years ago on all those Disney and them. This one's been up for 20 hours, 38,000 views. This one's been up 21 hours, 21,000 views, right? 21,000. This guy, we'll get into this guy in a moment. 52,000 views. And so it's just a mess. Like this video I'm going to show you with Sombrero has got 212,000 views. But the majority of these ones have around 20 or so thousand views, right? And, you know, when they had Erika Kirk on, it had 2.2 million. And she's a fucking disaster. And so with these older views, when Charlie was still alive, he was getting 800,000 views, 300,000 views, 1 million views, 1.2 million views, 2.2 million views. You know, so these videos, 300,000 views, 149,000 views was his low. 500,000 views, that's low. Most of these things are in the millions, well above 100,000, right? This one had 20,000 views. That's like the lowest one of his thing here. And so, you know, his videos got way more views. And that means that they haven't found anything that resembles what they used to have, even with him being martyred, right? So let's go to some of this other video. Okay, Trump's sombrero meme breaks the left. You know, you say shit like this. I mean, this is... They tried to make Charlie Kirk look like a guy who would go out and he would debate and reach common ground and treat these people right with respect. But when you think your side is completely right and your side sucks, and the other side is completely wrong and that side also sucks, right? But you can't reach any sort of common ground because there's things on both sides that is you can agree with, like in the truth community, that are, you know, things that, you know, there's some things that are just ass backwards and wrong that both sides are wrong about. And there's a lot of, you know, bullshit things that they believe in that are just part of the official story. But there's other things that they get right. There's things that both sides get right. And if you celebrate those things, you know, some common ground. But Charlie Kirk was about, you know, his best videos were when he debates somebody and it'd be like Charlie Kirk owns some liberal, you know, transgender person or something like that, right? Like that's what they're looking for, drama, and they're looking for, you know, these some sort of beatdown from some grown-ass man debating college kids. You know, dumb fuck college kids, right? So Trump had this sombrero meme, which I'll show you in a moment. And you probably have already seen it, but I'll go back to it. And, you know, I just want to say that this I think it said 456 employees at Turning Point. So they got 500 employees. And so, you know, they have all that donation bullshit and merch that they have on their site. And, you know, after Charlie died, they're going to get a windfall profit. And then they have to come up and they have to get in front of people. And I don't know how those events are going to do without Charlie. I don't know if this new kid that they have rolled out there who is, you know, just, he's on a temporary basis and these other people. But, you know, they had some substitutes and, you know, they had J.D. Vance and they had Tucker Carlson, but now they're getting back to their regular people. And maybe they can interview some people with some star potential. But they're not going to be able to carry all these employees. Remember, Eric said, you guys aren't going anywhere. Well, they are if you guys can't get the fucking views, right? Like, you know, this martyr thing ain't going to last that long. You guys might want to think that you're going to ride this for years, but it's It's not, you know, the American people aren't buying that shit, right? The majority of them.
We are that the president of the United States is trolling dollar store Obama and shut down Schumer.
What's great is they're going to scream that it's racist, and I guarantee
they already are.
Okay, this guy's gay, right? They're going to scream like this is guy that's racist. It's so racist.
Is they're going to scream that it's racist, and I guarantee
they already are.
But I guarantee that actual Hispanics like.
So I cover this guy Tim Pool. I didn't like him, whatever he did. He's a Tim Tool, but the hat, bro. You know, like, why are these guys not wearing hats? Are you guys fucking in Alaska? It's not even cold there yet, right? Like, you know, you guys are inside an indoor building. Why the hat, bro?
Especially Mexican Americans will find it extremely funny. Because it's the same thing with like Speedy Gonzalez, where like they would all complain that that's racist, and actual Mexicans love Speedy Gonzalez. Like Mexican Americans generally really like Mexican.
I can see why your show's doing so well. There's fucking amazing, cutting edge banter,
themed like humor and cultural stuff.
So we got it. I totally agree. I mean, even with the taco bowl.
Yeah,
you know,
the best taco bowls.
We love Hispanics. You know, I mean. Let me see here. Do we actually have the... Okay, I think this is 85.
They have it.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans... Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
So this is what's great. So
okay, so going back to this, it's not funny, right? Like, this is just bad AI stuff. And, you know, this is what I liked about Trump in his first term, that he didn't act presidential. Right? Like, he acted so irreverent, and like the president, you know, they want to have this idea that the halls of Congress, and it's like some kind of these noble buildings, and this, you know, there's some kind of higher consciousness, and it's something to admire and take pride in, and all this shit. And these guys are a bunch of fucking scumbags. You know, the Democrats and the Republicans, they're all sellouts, they're all shills, they've all bought and paid for. They're all, you know, supporting Israel and war and the military-industrial complex and all the bad shit, right? And they're just, you know, they're just artificial people. They're not real people. Like, they're just all ghouls. They're all fucking horrific people. And Trump didn't pretend he wasn't that. I mean, he didn't embrace it, but he just acted like a complete punk. And he didn't act presidential, and it drove him nuts. It was their number one complaint about him, that he didn't act the part. He didn't act like a president. And I liked that part of him because he's acknowledging what I've known for years, that it is a joke, right? It's not fucking real. There's no authority there. There's no, you know, there's a shadow government, but even then, it's only the authority that the people allow, the rules that the people obey because they're, you know, you're dependent on the system. But it's not, doesn't come from God. It's not real authority. Like, it's just some made up shit. The American government, all this stuff, the rules, the laws. I'm not suggesting you go break laws, because there's a, you know, that doesn't make things better. But it's not, they don't have any real authority as a government. You know, they just claim to it. It's like this whole fucking, you know, whatever it is. But, you know, this has gotten old with Trump. And it's childish. He's like a child. This is a childish thing. And it, you know, shouldn't be newsworthy. And I saw the Democrats losing their minds over it, which these guys are talking about it. But it shouldn't be something, you know, when you're this far divided, your country's fucked. And when your left and the right hate each other, you know, this is a bad divorce. You know, I've said this over and over again. It's universally known when teams and couples and families and corporations, you know, employees are all at each other's throats, the work stops and everything fails, right? And so this is not bode well. And Trump is supposed to be leading this thing. And he just degrades these people and all these things, and then, you know, now calls them violent when he uses even more violent language, and he does shit like this, right? He's just an immature little bitch, right? The whole thing with Jeffrey Epstein and all that stuff. He's a creep. He's a pedo. He just sucks as a human being. And these guys are just, you know, riding on his jock, right?
Until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
So this is what's great. So Hakeem Jeffries comes out, and it was like, you can't do this to me. Like, you're not going to get me with this bigoted, which it's not bigoted, guys.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in front of a camera, bro. You know, I don't know how much role this guy played before, but I didn't see him in front of the camera ever before. Like, you don't have any talent. You're not an interesting person to listen to. You're not funny. Like, I didn't think Charlie Kirk was great, but other people did. But he was better than this guy, right? Like, Charlie Kirk had, you know, things to say other than, like, something, like, so remedial. This is like, you know, somebody's friend, maybe Charlie Kirk's gay lover, or that's probably the other guy. And just because you were around him doesn't mean you had his talent, right? And this is why the videos are tanking. Like, you just can't stick anybody in there, and this guy sucks at it.
He's making a point that you want to keep healthcare for illegals, as we define them, Tim, not as CNN defines them. Anyways, so he's making a point about who you're, and obviously many illegals come from south of the border. So let's, so he gets all upset about this. So Trump doubles down and posts another one. Play cut 95, and you probably should ride that dump button while we do it.
Will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
Yeah. So Trump will not be cowed. He will not back down.
Oh, he's investing.
Yeah, is that not backing down
in the future? These are clearly targeted at younger millennials, Gen Z, and I think about who would be.
No, they're targeted at dumb fucks at dumb fuckistan, because they're not funny. They're not good. There's a lot of, you know, good AI slop out there. Their production values aren't good. They're totally not presidential. Look, they got fucking Clarence Thomas behind this guy. Let's listen to this guy for a second. This guy's a nightmare.
Most offended by these things, and it's your aging MSNBC viewer. I think
exactly.
Younger people are just laughing, being like, it's good to have fun, you know.
You know, the left-right paradigm is so fucking boring. When you turn on the news and they're bitching about Trump, even though, you know, they're right about Trump for once. Like, they've been, you know, obsessed with the guy for years, and now they get to be right. But it just sucks watching them. I show you this all the time with MSNBC. I show you how bad that shit is. And this shit is just as bad, maybe even worse. Because the Democrats are just like fucking, they're denutted. They got nothing. Like, Trump is, you know, doing martial law, and he's completely complicit with Jeffrey Epstein. And he got all these things. He wants to buy Greenland. He's taking big swings at things, and he's destroying America, the big, beautiful bill. The Democrats got nothing. They're doing nothing. There's nothing to talk about. They have zero power. And even when Joe Biden was around, yeah, they were censoring us, and they were doing small-time shit. You know, Trump is swinging for the fucking fences. And so, you know. Anyways, let's go to this last video here. Tim Pool exposes who's really at fault for left-wing violence.
Talking about it before the show started. Something that I think is almost like a little bit of a Washington meme. Like, it's in the bubble, right? It doesn't, like, nobody seems to care about this story, but it is political news. So I want to make sure
you get Charlie Kirk up there with his fist up in the air. Remember when the show had some energy in it, and people liked watching it, right?
Talk about it, and that's the Schumer shutdown.
The Schumer shutdown. Look at it. It kind of almost rhymes. It like go to Schumer shut. It's Charles Schumer, and he's shutting it down, even though he's not in charge of the Senate, right?
Or Sombrero Gate.
It sort of snuck up on us.
Yeah.
Because obviously we've been distracted by everything, and in the background there was like, oh, there's a government shutdown possibly approaching. So
the best is when there's like closeted gay right-wing Christian guys, you know.
And I feel a lot of us at Turning Point are belatedly looking, oh, we should probably know about this, because people will ask about it.
It's interesting because before all of this happened, we were talking about it months ago. We were kind of circling on our calendar knowing that this was going to be a thing, and then obviously with what happened with Charlie, it has totally
wait, what happened to Charlie?
Into the background, and
so why don't you explain what happened to Charlie? Like, really happened to him?
It feels even more so now, Tim, because of everything.
So they're going to have to take that Israel money. They're going to have to take that pro-Israeli money, but it's not going to work anymore because they don't have an audience. I mean, it's not as good without Charlie Kirk. I don't know what their fucking main events are going to be, their live events. I don't know how many views they're going to get, how much that's going to go over. You know, they had some fake whatever, some bomb scare or something in Utah again, right? Because, you know, that's the kind of shit that goes down, you know, when you're trying to push this idea.
But it's just like, I can't explain it. I can't tell if it's just me living in the bubble that I'm living in, but it just doesn't seem quite like the past shutdowns.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, last night on Timcast IRL, we decided not to lead with the government shutdown story because of the bomb threat or hoax device at the TPUSA event.
Hoax device. It was a hoax. A lot of hoaxes at TPSU.
And I feel like, we were talking to Jack Posobiec about this. I'm not sure we're that concerned with the government shutdown when we've had, in the past 4 weeks, 4 terror attacks. It's
crazy. And they're all liberal terror attacks. And, you know, it's the kind of thing that bodes well for us because we're pushing an agenda where the liberal terror attacks give Trump the right to go do, you know, shit that he wants to do, like martial law and shit like that.
The question we ask when we launch every show is, what is the big story that people are looking for and wanting to understand about and understand? And the government shutdown matters. What is the reason for it? But I think right now, when I talk to regular people,
you know, regular dumb fucks,
and you listen to some of these other podcasts, big shows, even Joe Rogan, they're talking about what happened to Charlie Still. It's kind of there's the
they're talking about how it's a fucking cover up and a hoax, and nobody buys the official story, and you guys are the only motherfuckers who, you know, you like this really weird hat and these effeminate dudes and like
sounds of that, right? We don't want to forget Charlie, but at the same time, it's because we're still scared, and
they're pretty scared. They're scared, these guys.
I'll stress this again. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. It's what you do in the face of your fears. Do you back down? Do you give up? Or do you persevere? And I think that's what everyone's trying to do. So when I saw a video of a detonation at one of your guys' events, I was scared. I said, what are they trying to do?
So was I. Yeah, I mean, there's
so was I. I was terrified.
There's so much out there right now. You know, it's funny. The likes are not public anymore, but you can see people when they like your tweet. And I've seen some high-profile people, including Elon Musk, like a tweet or a post that I posted yesterday about this new Rutgers poll that says, you know, 50% of people think over 50% of progressives, left of center people.
Yeah, but again, you didn't go with the right-wing thing. How many right-wing people think that Nancy Pelosi should be assassinated? You know, I mean, it's horrible. It's fucking unwatchable. And they're just dodging the most important thing. They would have a lot more viewers if they said the official story is bullshit and Charlie was, you know, severing ties with Israel. And then there would just be more energy, and they had some energy. They have to bring some people who are, like, you know, worth listening to, you know, that can attract an audience. But this is bad, bro. This is like fucking Jen Psaki level bad. It's like early days of Jen Psaki. I don't think they're getting better, though. She's only gotten slightly better. Like, I think this is it. I think this is like, this is their new content, right? This thing's going to fade into fucking nothingness in like a month. They're going to have to bring Crazy Erika back to give it some juice. You know, I should probably say this at the beginning of the video. I'm going to have to say this a couple of times, but we've never experienced being invaded. We've never had the feeling of being occupied by other countries and really being attacked on American soil. Just bullshit stuff that's happened. You know, some called disgruntled people, mostly false flag type stuff. You know, people live in fear of if they live in a neighborhood or, you know, gang violence or whatever it might be. You know, there's crime and this kind of thing, or, you know, domestic abuse and these types of things. People live in fear of all these things. Personally, you know, your personal situation. But Americans have never seen what it's like to have martial law. They've never felt what it's like to go and have to show your papers and, you know, be under, you know, authoritarian type of situation. And so they don't know what they're giving up. They don't know what it's like to not have the right to a fair trial and these things. I mean, you know, everything's rigged as it is. So people do know that, but not, you know, I mean, it can get a lot worse than it is. And the right wing's been willing to give all this shit up for imaginary fucking bullshit things, you know, Pizzagate stuff and like Jeffrey Epstein stuff and, you know, immigration stuff that doesn't even affect them. that they've been conned into this stuff by the QAnon bullshit things and this moron, because a lot of them are just double-digit IQ dumb fucks. The left wing is always wants big government and wants to give up their whatever their freedoms are. They're never, they want more fucking I mean, you go to these different neighborhoods. When I moved from the north to the south, there was my ex's son was playing in like a 7-year-old basketball league, in Amherst, Massachusetts. And they didn't keep score. It was a liberal 5-college area, very liberal place, very liberal state. And they didn't keep score, right? Because the kids did, but they didn't want it to be competitive. That's like where every kid gets a trophy. Then we moved to Virginia in a country town was very rural, and they had like cheerleaders. I mean, like 7-year-old cheerleaders, and the coach was arguing with the refs. These kids couldn't, they didn't know how to dribble. They would run around. They were traveling all the time. It wasn't basketball, and so I saw the difference, like where you had to pull a permit to put up a, like a treehouse or some any number of things in Massachusetts, and in Virginia they were just like burning garbage next to us, right? And so you have these two extremes, like where there's pollution, there's no regulation, there's no building codes, and especially in the country areas in the right. In the city you can't do anything, it's all restrictive, right? You have these two oppositions of extremism, where both things lead to people doing shitty stuff, right? And just it just sucks to live in those kind of conditions.
There was another shooting at an ICE facility in Texas yesterday. Detainees were killed. The FBI director posted on social media bullets that were engraved with the message anti-ICE. He just posted another thing on social media saying they recovered a handwritten note from the subject that read...
So this is something that's good for Trump. Every time they shoot at ICE, every time they do something against his immigration, he gets to take a little bit more of your rights. So who's doing these things? Is it really left-wing dopes? Or is it false flaggy type of stuff, right? Is it false flags?
Hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think, is there a sniper with AP rounds on that roof? Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem.
This is a foreign leader, right? And this always happens. The radical left, they're the bad guys.
They're out of control. They're saying things. And they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem. Not the right, the radical left.
They just got to listen to this.
And
so, I turned on the news and they just had bombed another ship that may or may not have drugs on it in the middle of the fucking Atlantic Ocean coming from Venezuela.
It's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And
yeah, like martial law and other bullshit that he's doing. So, this is the rhetoric they're pushing here.
And it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear. I moved a submarine or two.
Okay, this is when he was talking shit with he got into a Twitter fight with some hardcore guy for Putin, one of Putin's underlings, and there was some talk about nuclear war, and so this guy moved some submarines that were on a scheduled course. He didn't have to move the submarines, he just did it as an act of showing, hey, I'm going to do something, but it really wasn't necessary to do because of tweets, right? This is how fucked this guy is. But then he says something even stupider.
Won't say about the two. Over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. Can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does...
You just used it, asshole. Use the other N-word. That you just said nuclear twice earlier, and now you're saying you can never use them?
Get to use. We have more than anybody else. We have better. We have newer. But it's...
He's just a fucking moron. Like, he's just so stupid. You know, he's definitely living in Dumbfuckistan. So I don't know if they've manipulated this. Woo! Trump rocking some kind of bald haircut here, some kind of a... Woo!
Everybody having a good time?
Boy, he's got some tiny ass hands. Just, oh no, as long as you're going golfing with all this radical left violence going on. Alright, so somebody sent me this meme. Okay.
Roger. Have you, Roger? Roger.
That was quite funny. And this one here, I'm not even sure about this one. This was kind of fucked.
You're not supposed to make fire over here. Let me call the cops.
What in the Muncie boyology is going on over here? This man just found a pack of Muncie boys in the woods in the New Square sector of Muncie land, burning a deer on a pallet.
Burning a deer on a pallet.
Yo, literally an entire deer, yo. I cannot make this up. This man seen smoke coming from the back of his house, went back there and literally seen a mob of Muncie boys burning a deer on top of a pallet that you would see in a warehouse, my nigga. The deer had sticks going throughout its whole body, through its stomach, through its eyes. What in the New Squarian ritual is going on back here? So this is why you guys want to own all the property in Muncie land?
Because they want to burn some deer. So going back to what I said in the beginning of this video and some other things in the video, it's a long video, but talking about how, you know, people are very suspicious of people who are different looking and act differently, have different customs, all these things, right? And the Jewish people, historically, you know, are a minority in various countries around the world for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years, right? Where they are a minority group of people. You know how you have the breakdown in demographics, and then you have the majority people belong to one demographic, and then you have lesser demographics of people. And Jewish people are, you know, they're not, there's, I think, 16 million now, something like that, 12 or 16 million. So a very small amount of people. A good portion of them are now in Israel. A lot of them are in America, but it's only 1 or 2% in America of the total population. And so when you're a minority, an ethnic minority, there's always the chance that people are going to turn on you, which, again, if you have weird customs and do weird shit like burning deer on pallets, right? And, you know, there was a bunch of Jewish people in New York and New Jersey that were running an organ harvesting situation, and then all those guys that were caught living in the sewer and things like this. And then you have a disproportionate amount of very successful Jewish people that are in charge of financial institutions and like Hollywood and things like this, right? And then you have the amount of money that America's given to Israel, and then you have a genocide that's happening that very much resembles the treatment that they are talking about quite often they received at the hands of the Germans in World War II. And so, you know, a Holocaust type of situation. So when you have all those things going against you, historical things, right? You've had beef with the Muslim people, with the Arabs for 3,000 years. And they outnumber you 2 billion to 16 million, right? So, like, that's a bad situation. You live in the middle of that thing where there's historical hatred and prejudice. Of course, the Christians, many of them believe that Jesus was killed by the you know, the Jewish Pharisee, so there's that. Like, there's two religions right there that are against you, and then, you know, these other things that have happened. And so when things start going south, you can say it's a pattern of behavior, but you can also say it's somewhat intentional. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I do know that YouTube recommended that video from Sacha Baron Cohen. So my wife and I think I brought up his name about something. I think I said Borat. Or I said Borat here in a video. I said Borat here in a video. And the next thing you know, YouTube has recommended me a Borat video. But what it seemed to be is an outtake. I don't remember. I only think I saw that movie once. But was an outtake from the movie where he does a folk song. And he sings a song. He goes into a Arizona, Phoenix, like a redneck bar where they're playing country music. And he's good at doing these things. Like, he's an expert at understanding culture and figuring out a way to fit in. And he sings this song called "Throw the Jew in the Well." And he's spoofing their prejudice, and that's what that's supposed to be about. How he gets these rednecks to admit that they hate Jews, right? So that's the point of the scene in the movie. But YouTube recommends this thing to me, which is weird. Never seen it before, unless it's in the movie and I don't remember it. But they could have recommended any of these types of things, right? The many scenes that are in Borat that are up on YouTube. Like, they could have, it didn't have to be that one. And then all these people are sending me things. I just showed you the one, but there's lots of other things people are sending me. Again, I don't want this to make this some sort of a, this is not going to be a hatred channel or something like that. I don't, like, I have different levels of perception about these things. But I do see that, everything is heading towards a direction where America and Israel's relationship is somehow severed. Like, it might not happen. Like, when I see it, I'll believe it. But it's definitely trending in that direction. And so nobody would have thought that was possible 6 months ago, a year ago. I mean, a lot of things have been happening with the liberal community and stuff with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, there's things that are emerging, but still, like, it's, if that happens, then, like, they can definitely grab your guns. Like, it's on that level, right? Like, it's on a gun grabbing level, like stuff that you would never think the American people would give up their guns. Or would get them taken away, the NRA being so powerful. But the Israeli lobby is very powerful as well, and if they get cut off in next couple of years, that would be a real stunner. But anyways, we're marching to the apocalypse. Let me wrap this one up here, and I'll come back with more later. I should say this: there seems to be a lot of material out there. There's groups that have, who hate Jews. I mean, hate what Israel Jews or Zionists or whatever it is. Whatever, the different ways of hating this group of people. And there's lots of content out about these things. And now some of it's starting to emerge to people who haven't seen any of it before. And it's at a bad time when, all that shit's going down. We'll see how this thing with Palestine and what Hamas, which is an Israeli asset, ends up doing at the end. I mean, it's all fucked, right? I mean, we're heading towards the apocalypse, and there's just two ways about it. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount importance to the apocalypse. And the ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.